I think it's the same as communication skills. Like, in other words, let's talk about this thing. Like, hey man, you upset me earlier when you said that. You don't just people don't just do that.
Yeah.
That's something that takes a long, because you're terrified to do that. By nature, you're terrified to do that, you know? And then if you work at it little by little, you get to a point where if you're paying attention and you care about not feeling like, because for me, I don't want to feel the that unease of not bringing it up.
Yes.
That's what got me to having communication, developing some communication skills, is that I don't want to just sit with that inside of me. So little by little, I got to the point where I'm like, all right, Ryan, you said that, I'm going to talk to you about that now. You know what I mean? Like, but that's kind of similar to no to me, is like, you have to develop it. Yeah.
That's kind of like an obstacle is the way thing for me, where it's like, okay, I got to fire this person. Like these are the worst conversations. Or you have to be like, hey, like, you really let me down, or X, Y. You have to have and I go like, those conversations are super hard, but the reason they're super hard is because they're rare.
Yeah.
And which is good.
Yeah.
But like, now I have to do it. And so it's practice for doing that thing.
Yeah.
I try to think about it as like, there's going to be some pivotal moment in my life in the future where I have to like fire someone, or I have to preemptively like break something up that's going well, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be expensive. And like, by doing it here in this relatively low stakes thing, by being like, by telling this, I don't know, like AC tech who was late for the third time that like, I'm going to go with another company, you know, like you're just getting practice doing that thing. And so it's actually not bad that it's happened.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have chosen for it to happen, but it did happen. And now like you have reps doing a thing that you really can't get reps in life doing anything else.
Yeah. I remember firing somebody, a low, kind of like you said, like a low stakes thing, where it was like kind of what you said, like late for like the third or fourth time coming to my house, and they called me or texted me like, I'm going to be like late to this thing. Or did they call? All I remember is that I was like, okay. And then they called and I hung up, and I just sat there for a minute. I was like, what are you doing? Like, and then I called them back.
Don't come.
I was like, yeah, don't come.
Yeah.
And she was like, what? And I was like, don't.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like, we had this time. She was like, no, the time. I go, no.
Yeah.
You know the time. I don't know what you're.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the traffic. And I was like, this is a city with traffic. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, but I felt so much better.
Yeah.
But there was basically in the 40 years before that conversation, I would have taken that probably over and over. It took a while.
Yeah, and now you're a person who's had that conversation one time, and then the next time you have to do it, you're like, okay, this is like when I had to do it with so and so, and it's like a little bit better, and you just build the muscle of being able to. It's like, I mean, obviously you go on stage a lot. I have to like do talks, but it's like people are like, stage fright, and it's like, I just am on the stage a lot. Like the only reason it's less weird for me than it is for you is because I've done it a lot of times. That's it. Yeah. And the only way to do that is to do it a lot of times.
I've brought up what confidence as a comedian, at least. Sometimes people go, you know, oh, this guy's so confident. Be like a young guy that has like a lot of swag. And I'm like, yeah, that's not real.
That's ego.
Yeah, that's not real confidence.
Yeah.
Real confidence, you do not develop without tons of reps. That's in what we do and in getting on stage. There's no such thing as like owning the stage, like your 8th time on stage.
Yeah.
You can look like it.
You can fake it.
Yeah, you can fake it.
Yeah.
But that real control of like the person just goes up there like it's nothing, that person's been on stage like 10, 15,000 times. Like that's so many times that it's a true confidence.
Sure.
It's not, doesn't matter how you walk out there and what you do. Like if you don't have the reps, you don't actually have that much confidence.
Yeah, I've said I don't believe in myself. I have evidence, and like you acquire evidence.
Yeah,
and it's actually the same with writing too. Like when people think writer's block is a thing.
Yeah,
and it's like no, you just don't have the material. Like you haven't done the work to have the idea of what you're going to say. Like there's not this, like, if you're like, oh, I'm not feeling confident today. That's not a thing. Like the confidence is based on if you've done it 15,000 times, yes or no.
Yeah.
Like you can not feel excited, but like the confidence is based on having done it a lot of times. And writer's block is that like you want to write, but you have not done the work that goes into writing. And then you're wanting the the last stage without the previous stages.
Yeah. And so the lesson there to that person is like, you haven't done the
Just
work yet.
Just go read a bunch of books or like think about it. Like you don't have to force writing today. There's things you can do that will contribute to the project you're working on.
Yeah.
It's just not the performance part of it.
This feels to me like sort of connected to the just do it now part of because nothing makes me, it makes me crazy at this point where you meet somebody who's like, I have a bunch of stand-up material written. I just haven't gotten on stage. And I'm like, okay.
Sure.
So then you haven't done it.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but I have like journals full. I'm like, all right.
Sure.
And they're like, yeah, I just, they're waiting. I'm just waiting for and you're like, do you think this day the sun's going to shine differently that morning? And you're going to go, this is the stage day. Like you still haven't done it.
Yes.
So like it's like, and this is coming from something I would fully admit to, I can think of being in those moments too.
Sure.
And what it is you're consumed by fear usually, I mean, I remember I had this, I went to an agent I wanted to audition for them to represent me. This is before I moved to LA.
Okay.
So I was in North Carolina. I go to Charlotte and the lady was like, what have you done? Like, what's your resume like?
Yeah.
And I was like, just these things in college.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, we represent people that have done this, this, and that. And I had like the monologue ready to do. And she was like, so I mean, like, you haven't done any of those, like we represent people who have done a bunch of things. And I was like, yeah, no, I haven't. And she was like, okay. And then I just was like, all right, I guess I should at least, and I just left. I just left and went and but you justify it you spin it to yourself, right? I can look back on it 20 some years later and go, I was just terrified in that moment and went along with her judgment. Instead of being like, I'll just show you what I can do. I was like, I'll just leave.
Right.
And then now a few months later, I was in LA and I was auditioning finally I got an agent. But in that moment with her in Charlotte, I was like, all right, I'll just not do it.
Bert and Tom, Tom and Bert. One goes topless while the other wears a shirt. Tom tells stories and Bert's the machine. There's not a chance in hell that they'll keep it clean. Here's what we call 2 bears, 1 cave.